Many thanks for joining me on Health Matters. Bangladesh fights surge in dengue deaths. North Korea may launch spy satellite this week. Taiwan's UN envoy joins election. Opposition in chaos. U.S. Defense Chief in Kiev announces 100 million U.S. aid. Runway overshoot. U.S. Navy jet land in Hawaii water. Stay with me for these and more stories. On health matters in Bangladesh, Bangladesh is undergoing its worst ever dengue outbreak in history, with hospitals filled to the brim and the death toll increasing. The country recorded 24 deaths, the highest in a day, from the mosquito-borne disease last Wednesday. While the disease does not spread from person to person, a mosquito that bites an infected patient then becomes a carrier and can transmit dengue to others it bites. That makes places with a high concentration of dengue patients, such as the hospital where Maina works, more dangerous for those who are yet not affected. Health experts are alarmed as dengue usually subsides in the South Asian region when the annual monsoon rains stop by the end of September. According to the government's Directorate General of Health Service (DGHS), at least 1,549 people, including 156 children from newborns up to those aged 15, have died of the disease in Bangladesh as of Monday, which has recorded a total of 301,255 dengue cases this year. The record deaths are roughly 5 times last year's tally of 281 fatalities, the highest in a single year in Bangladesh's history until the outbreak this year. The previous highest number of cases in 1 year, 1,354, was reported back in 2019. I have never witnessed a dengue outbreak of this proportion, Mukda Hospital's director, Dr. Mohammed Niatuzama, said, according to report, adding that patients were streaming in from across the densely populated country. It's very unusual to see such a large number of dengue patients in November. Now, North Korea has said it plans to launch a spy satellite as early as Wednesday, following 2 unsuccessful trials earlier this year. North Korea officially notified Japan that a launch will take place at some point before December 2nd, stoking Japan and South Korea to issue maritime warnings for ships in the Yellow and East China Seas. While Japan is one of North Korea's top enemies, it is also the coordinating authority for the International Maritime Organization, overseeing the waters under the pathway of the satellite launch. Fumio Kishida, Japanese Prime Minister, quickly spoke out against the plan, something North Korea regards as its sovereign right along with its rocket program. Even if the purpose is to launch a satellite using ballistic missile technology, is a violation of a series of United Nations Security Council resolutions, Kishida said, according to reports on Tuesday. It is also a matter that greatly affects national security. Both Japan's and South Korea's militaries will be on high alert ahead of the launch, joined by the USS Carl Vinson, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier at South Korea's naval base in Busan. Kishida said the 3 countries will work together to strongly urge Pyongyang to cancel the launch. South Korea has been cautioning for weeks of the impending satellite launch, which they said will also violate a 2018 agreement signed to de-escalate tensions. Kang Ho-pil, Chief Director of Operations at the South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff, said on Monday, "We sternly want North Korea to immediately halt the present preparations to launch a military spy satellite. If North Korea goes ahead with the launch of a military recognized satellite, despite our warning, our military will take necessary measures to guarantee the lives and safety of the people. Whether the satellite launch will be successful is far from certain." North Korea has successfully launched at least 2 observation satellites in the past, but its 2 attempts so far this year have been a failure. South Korean officials say the wreckage from a recent launch showed the satellite had no meaningful use for reconnaissance. However, this time, Pyongyang may have had help from Russia following a rare visit by leader Kim Jong-un there in September to meet President Vladimir Putin at the Vostochny Cosmodrome in the country's east. Analysts speculated at the time that Kim may have offered some of his country's ammunition badly needed for the Russian war effort in Ukraine in exchange for help with the satellite program. The spy satellite is a priority of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's plan to modernize the country's military and develop cutting-edge weapons. He hopes to one day have a fleet of satellites to monitor the movements of US and the South Korean troops in the region and enhance its military capability. South Korea separately plans to launch its own satellite from California on November 30th with US assistance. On election matters, Hsiao Kim, Taiwan's outspoken ex-envoy to the United States, has officially registered her candidacy for vice president and the running mate of William Lai in the island's upcoming 2024 election. Hsiao, 52, a former Democratic Progressive Party (DPP) legislator, served as Taiwan's de facto ambassador to the United States from 2020 until her resignation this week. Her tenure in Washington, D.C. coincided with renewed U.S. interest in Taiwan thanks to its initial battle with COVID-19 and an ongoing standoff with Beijing at a time when U.S.-China ties were souring. Hsiao, a self-described cat warrior who often poses with her fans, is also well known for her active presence on social media platforms like X, where she has amassed 133,000 followers promoting the DPP's pro-Taiwan stance. Like Lai, the present vice president, Hsiao is reviled by Beijing for her political position on Taiwan and its relationship with China. In April, she was officially banned by Beijing from visiting China, Hong Kong and Macau after she accompanied President Tsai Ing-wen on her unofficial trip to the United States. Beijing claims Taipei as its own territory and has not ruled out the use of force to achieve its goal. The DPP says only the people of Taiwan can decide their island's future. Despite earning the rage of Beijing, Hsiao is popular with younger voters and seen as a breath of fresh air compared with some of her counterparts. Reflecting the rise in Taiwanese identity across the island and diaspora, Hsiao uses the Taiwanese pronunciation of her name instead of Mandarin, the dominant language in China. The media boost to Lai's presidential campaign comes with the opposition in seeming hysteria just days away from the November 24th deadline for registration. Kuomintang KMT candidate Ho Yu-yi and independent Taiwan People's Party candidate Ko Wen-jae last week appeared ready to upset the poll by working together and posing the most formidable challenge yet to Lai, who has been polling ahead of both the candidates. Lloyd Austin, U.S. Defense Secretary, has made a surprise visit to Ukraine where he launched a fresh military aid package for Ukraine worth $100 million. On his first visit to Kyiv since April 2022, Austin met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as well as Defense Minister Rustem Umerov and Commander-in-Chief General Valery Zaluzhny on Monday and promised the long-term support for the United States. He said Ukraine's effort to defeat Russian forces matters to the rest of the world and the U.S. support will continue for the long haul. The new aid package includes anti-tank weapons, air defense interceptors, and an additional high-mobility artillery rocket system, HIMARS. Zelensky told Austin that his visit was a very important signal for Ukraine. Since February 2022, Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The U.S. has provided over $44 billion and allies on additional $34 billion in security support that ranges from millions of bullets to air defense systems, advanced European and U.S. battle tanks, and finally pledges for F-16 fighter jets. But there are fears that Allied support is weakening amidst the devastating Israel-Gaza war and a perceived lack of progress in the Ukrainian counteroffensive that began in June. Fighting has been bogged down in the east of the country around ruined towns such as Bakhmut and Advitka, although Ukraine has recently reported some successes in the southern Kherson region where it has established a foothold on the east bank of the Dnipro River and in the Black Sea. However, as the cold weather sets in, it will become more difficult for either side to make large gains due to ground conditions. Moscow persistently attacked Ukraine's energy infrastructure and the power grid, leaving millions of Ukrainians in the cold and dark at a time when temperatures are often below zero in sometimes last year. Still ahead on the news, military officials said a U.S. Navy recognizes jet with 9 crew members aboard, crashed into water off the Hawaiian island of Oahu on Monday after overshooting the runway at a U.S. Marine Corps base there. According to Marine Corps spokesperson First Lieutenant Harley Harms, there were no casualties aboard the P-8A Poseidon aircraft, a twin-engine multi-mission patrol and reconnaissance jet with the airframe of a Boeing 737 passenger plane. Harms said the conditions of the 9 personnel aboard were being examined. Footages showed the aircraft upright with its wings slightly above the waterline in Kanu Bay off Marine Corps Base, Hawaii, on the major island of Oahu, north of the capital of Honolulu. According to the National Weather Service, visibility was down to around a mile at the time of the incident, with winds gusts up to 21 miles per hour and mist. The P-8A Poseidon is a workhouse of U.S. Navy operations. It can carry both torpedoes and cruise missiles while conducting anti-submarine and anti-surface warfare and intelligence gathering missions. A statement from the U.S. Navy's Third Fleet said the jet, based in Whidbey Island, Washington, was on a detachment in support of maritime homeland defense. A P-8A operating over the South China Sea was intercepted by a Chinese fighter jet in an encounter that saw the Chinese plane come within 500 feet of it earlier this year. P-8 aircraft are also flown by Australian, New Zealand, British, Norwegian, and Indian militaries, according to Boeing. On more stories, United Nations says Earth to hit 2.9 degrees Celsius despite pledges. The United Nations Environment Programme UNEP's annual emissions gap report, published on Monday, said measures countries pledges to address climate change against the action required this year is likely to be the hottest in human history. The world is witnessing a disturbing acceleration in the number, speed, and scale of broken climate records, UNEP said. The report found the world faces between 2.5 degrees Celsius, that's 4.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and 2.9 degrees Celsius, 5.2 degrees Fahrenheit of warming beyond pre-industrial levels on present commitments if governments do not take more aggressive climate action. Scientists predict the world could pass numerous catastrophic points of no return at all levels of warming, from the runaway melting of ice sheets to the Amazon rainforest drying out, and leave vast swaths of the planet essentially uninhabitable for humans. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for dramatic climate action at the COP28 climate talks, which started in Dubai on November 30th. He likened the emissions gap to a canyon. Guterres said the world must reverse course and make a decisive step away from polluting coal, oil, and gas. The world's emissions cutting pledges are nowhere near enough to curb the effects of climate change, with Earth on track for warming a potentially catastrophic 2.9 degrees Celsius, 5.2 degrees Fahrenheit this century, the United Nations has cautioned. In African scenes, DRC's Katumbi launches presidential bid. 1 month ahead of the election, Moise Katumbi, opposition leader, formally unveiled his campaign for president of the Democratic Republic of Congo at a rally in Kisangani on Monday. The 58-year-old millionaire businessman has vowed to fight graft, create jobs, and reform the country's ailing economy. He has criticized incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi's record in the DRC's volatile east, where the army has been fighting M23 rebels and other armed groups. Katumbi asserted that the president was recruiting foreign mercenaries instead of adding the salaries of military and the police. Young people attending the rally in Kisangani said they were eager for change 5 years after Tshisekedi came to power in the disputed 2018 election that Katumbi was stopped from joining the race. Katumbi's rally came a day after his 2 major competitors, Tshisekedi and opposition figure Martin Fayulu, began their campaigns ahead of the 20th December vote. Katumbi in 2018 tried to run for president but was thwarted by President Joseph Kabala's government, which cancelled his Congolese passport while he was out of the country. His critics this time questioned his eligibility for the presidency, alleging that his father was not a Congolese citizen. However, a top court last month threw out a lawsuit seeking to block him from running. Numerous opposition candidates have withdrawn from the race and thrown their support behind Katumbi. Now we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll bring you more stories. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Now, stories from Nigeria on international relations. Tinubu woos foreign investors at G20 summit. On Monday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assured international investors that Nigeria, the most populous country in Africa, is a secure destination for their investment. President Tinubu gave the assurance while speaking as a participant in a panel discussion on fostering local value chains and investments in Africa at the 4th G20 Investment Summit in Germany. Tinubu highlighted Nigeria's stable democracy since 1999 and ongoing economic reforms, making a persuasive case for it as a prime business destination. However, while acknowledging challenges, he gave an assurance of a commitment to providing a conducive environment for investment. The president also highlighted opportunities in public sectors such as energy, digitalization, telecommunications, and agriculture. Obasanjo says Western democracy failed in Africa. Ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo has stated that Western liberal democracy has failed in Africa because it was forced on the continent. On Monday, he declared that this while delivering his keynote address at a high-level consultation on rethinking Western liberal democracy for Africa in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. Western liberal democracy will certainly not work as a system of government in Africa because it does not take into account the views of the majority of the people, according to the former president. Obasanjo described Western liberal democracy as a government of a few people over all the people or population, and these few people are representatives of only some of the people and not full representatives of all the people. Invariably, the majority of the people are wittingly or unwittingly kept out. He advocated for what he termed as Afro-democracy in place of the Western liberal democracy. African countries have no business operating a system of government in which they have no hands in its definition and design, he added. And finally, on the news, federal government sees monthly revenue surge hits over 1 trillion naira, says Minister Wale Edun, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, has said that the Federation account was record improved revenue inflow since the removal of fuel subsidy from average of 650 million naira monthly to over 1 trillion naira in the last 4 months. On Monday, the minister stated this in Asaba at the opening ceremony of the 4-day retreat organized for members of the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC. The minister, represented by the Permanent Secretary, Finance Special Duties, Okokon Udo, said the government had for long realized that petroleum subsidy was not sustainable. Subsidy regime battered revenues that should have been available to fund feasible expenditures that were critical to the well-being of the populace, according to him. The minister said the current administration was mindful of the needs and welfare of Nigerians and assured that it will continue to implement people's-oriented strategies. Edun added, among the previous activities of this government after coming into office was the constitution of a Presidential Committee of Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. The committee has submitted an interim report which is full of optimism. The minister also noted that the present administration was not oblivious of the untold hardship faced by Nigerians following the removal of fuel subsidy and harmonizing of exchange rates. He reassured that all the sacrifices made by the people would never be in vain. The President Bola Tinubu-led administration has so far put in place a well-structured palliative measures to mitigate the economic ramifications of the ongoing reforms, Edun said. On the theme of the retreat, creating a resilient economic through diversification of the nation's revenue, the minister lauded the choice, emphasizing that it was apt. Edun also noted that the retreat clearly outlined the crucial need to diversify the nation's economy. A recap of major stories says on health matters, Bangladesh fights surge in dengue deaths. North Korea may launch spy satellite this week. Taiwan's UN envoy joins election, opposition in chaos. U.S. Defense Chief in Kiev announces 100 million US dollars aid, and runway overshoot U.S. Navy jet land in Hawaii water. That's all on the news. Thanks for watching. I am Lois Shrek.